Yo, what's up everyone? I hope you're all good and enjoying your summer. My name's 5X and welcome back to another episode of How to DNB with Inverse Audio. In today's episode we'll be covering the sound of Subsonic Aktive. I'm talking about the simple quarter rolling basses that we all hear and love. If you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All support is massively appreciated. Can we all please smash the like button? We're aiming for 100 likes this video. Leave a comment on what you want to hear next. We're always open for suggestions. Now, without any further ado, let's get right in the video. Just to be a bit clearer on today's style, we'll be creating something like Need Me or Launchpad by Subsonic on most of Aktive songs. Both artists share a similar style in some of the songs. The drums usually comprise of a hard-hitting kick, punchy stadium snare that is layered to create a deep and full sound. Pair that with some simple DNB hi-hats, maybe layered with some shakers or rides, and you'll have a professional sounding drum pattern. Let's break down the drum pattern for this song. First, I've got a main kick, and that's layered with an acoustic kick. Together, that sounds like. Now for the snares, I play them all separately and then together at the end. Snare 1, snare 2, snare 3. And together that sounds like just a very full and bright sound. Now moving on to the hi-hats. I've paired 4 different hi-hats, 1 loop. Now 1 going every 8th. 1 on the offbeat. And a top loop. And together they sound like very nice, very groovy. And then if we listen to the drums as a whole. This is where this subgenre of DNB stands out and is the most characteristic part of Subsonic's and Aktive's music. They both use a quarter note modulated bass that usually consists of 2 oscillators, a deep bass and a higher octave that is turned up plus 7 semitones. This makes a 5th chord, which is why it sounds so emotional. A sub-bass is layered below this to give its power and a driving factor for the whole song. In some of their songs, they will layer other basses at the start or at the end of the bar, or at the end of a phrase to make it sound interesting. This also makes sure that the song doesn't sound too repetitive. Now to break down the main bass for this song, I'll play it first separately. As you can already hear, it's screaming Subsonic. And the sound is actually very simple. I've got a BS2 filthy patch minus 2 octaves. And a Monster 2 at plus 7 semitones. Then I have the LFO1 set up in this shape, at a quarter note, and that's basically controlling the whole sound. It's controlling the cutoff, it's controlling the drive, and a bit of the hyper. And then down here I've got it controlling some of the EQ to give it a bit of a whump. Now let me show you just how easy it is to make these basses. Start off with a basic wave. I'm going to go for the sawtooth, minus 2 octaves. Then maybe pick out a spectral or a digital wave. I'm going to go for Monster 8. Then turn this one up to 7 semitones. Next, I'm going to add on some FM. Then we're going to come in with a filter. Next, go to your LFO1. Make that shape. Set to a quarter note at trigger. And we're getting the sound already. From here, we're going to automate a hyper, distortion, multiband compression, maybe some reverb on top. And from there you can play about with the parameters, maybe even automate the wavetable. And you have yourself a really awesome full sounding bass. Moving on, I have a sub layered underneath the bass. Pretty self-explanatory, but it gives it a lot more power. Now in my mixer on the main bass line, I've actually cut out anything a bit below 80 Hertz. This lets the sub shine through, and it doesn't clash with the frequencies of the main bass line. Another thing you can do to make this bass line a bit more interesting is map macro 1 to the rate of LFO1, and then automate it as the song goes on. That's what makes this rate speed up and changes the sound completely. I've also added a few legato notes so it slides and it gives it a cool effect as well. Paired that with a macro one trick and you've got yourself a really cool bass. And just so it's not too boring, I've added in a tape stop and a low pass filter which slowly opens up. I'll show you what it sounds like. And if you layer those 4 simple techniques, I guarantee you, you'll have a sick sounding bass. Moving on to the ambience and atmosphere. Since these sorts of tracks are maybe not meant for raves as to per se, we can be more intricate with our ambience, making the intro longer and evolving the song slowly into the drop. Starting off with a simple melody and some vocals, and then on top of that adding some soft pads, which slowly evolve into a filtered sawtooth pad playing the main chord progression. Right before the drop, it's also common to have the main bass line playing without the sub and have it filtering in. So now I'm going really fast here, but I'll try my best to break everything down. I first started the song off with these chords right here. This is what the patch looks like. Just 2 sawtooths with an LFO. One of them has a bend on it and a bit of attack and release. The next prominent feature that I added into this was this lead, which is actually a lead from Pigments. Really awesome, nice delay on there as well. I have this really cool atmosphere, which is such a filling sound. I love it. And on there, it's actually this portal patch that's doing all the magic here, along with a supermassive, which has given it a really long and ambient feel. So if we put these things together, it sounds like this. Next, moving on with the ambience, I've layered a waterfall. It's very quiet, it's very subtle, but it's in there and it gives the track a lot more emotion and the intro just feels a lot more full. I've also layered in some tropical ambience, got some birds and stuff in there. It sounds pretty cool. This is what gives your track life and makes them sound less robotic. I've gone in for an orchestral loop as well that I found. Awesome stuff. And then another one here. And then probably the star of the show in this intro will be this intro Reese. Now it sounds quite complex, but if you look at this, it's just a sawtooth wave, unison set to 16 minus 2 octaves, bit of detune on there. Then I've stuck the MG Low 24 filter on there. And then I've found out this one trick by accident. Stick an EQ on here and then just press this button and that's it. That's all I did to this patch. It sounds really good. I added in some reverb in post and a decapitator. But apart from that, that is just the stock sound. Layer that with some impacts, some risers, and the classic hat. And this is what your intro should sound like by now. I forgot to mention about this ARP as well. Just an ARP from Pigments playing the chords of the melody. Now next, moving on, I'll play the vocals that I've found from Arcade actually. And this is what I managed to find. I don't wanna change now. 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 Now I've got this vocal with a few post-processing effects on it, and then I've also fed it into 2 buses, one with a reverb on it, and then I've also ducked it into itself, so when it's coming in, you can see that the volume ducks, but then as soon as the vocal stops playing, the reverb comes back out. This can really help to make your vocal sound a lot less muddy. When you've got a lot of stuff going on, especially a lot of ambient stuff, can really help up clear the mess. I don't wanna change now. And the same thing's going on with this delay here. So when the vocal's not playing, it just becomes a lot louder. I've also rendered out the vocal just because it makes it a bit easier to work with. But once you add in the vocal, this is what it should sound like. As you can hear, there's not that much going on, and it's already becoming such a complex track, and it's got so much ambience, it's got so much energy. I really like this one. I might potentially release it. Anyway, moving on. Coming towards the build-up, I've added in 2 claps. One that's really, really wide, and the other one's it's just a bit more mono. Together they sound like this. Coming up to the build-up, I've layered a few effects, some sweep-ins and impacts, as well as a sub-drop, and then a few build-ups, rises, and such. Pretty cool stuff. Then I took out the respace from the intro, added in the main bass line, and I filtered it in like so. Just to tease it a little bit, let the audience know what's coming. A few quick other extra tips. Sidechain, massively important here. I've added my sub and my bass into a bus, and then I've added a KHS plugin on it. You can use any gain plugin, and I've essentially mapped this to the automation so it controls the amount of volume that's being let through. So anytime I play the kick, I duck it down all the way. I try and trace the shape. Same with the snare, and this just gives so much more room for your kick and snare to breathe. You can get so much more headroom on your mixes. Not to mention, it will just kick a lot more, quite literally. I'll quickly play what it sounds like without, and then I'll play it with. You'll see it's days and nights difference. And then if we put those in, then over here in this section, I've added in a few leads. It's not the intro lead, ignore that. So that consists of the same intro lead that we had before. And I found this cool arp lead. As soon as you let go, it creates an arpeggiator, which I think is really neat. So I just played a really short note because I wanted the arpeggiator. But then the star of the show is this drop lead here. Which is just a sawtooth wave again. But that sounds like this. But yeah, that is essentially the song. It's a very easy style to recreate, and you can get some great sounding tracks. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure you smash the subscribe button, leave this video a like, and leave a comment on what styles you want to see next. I'm always open to suggestions. Make sure you join our Discord. I'm always talking to people there, giving you guys my feedback. Everyone gives each other feedback. Great community. Trying to build that up. If you need any samples, head over to our website. I've also just started doing tutoring as well, one-to-one lessons. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled as well, because we're going to be releasing a preset pack in a few weeks. And within 2 months, we're going to be releasing next sample pack. This one is going to be crazy, let me tell you. Spend so much time on it, and this time there's 3 people working on it. So shout out to my team. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to play the track, and I hope you all enjoy. Peace.